All right, let's dive into one of the 20th century's most powerful and, yeah, let's be honest, most difficult books, Emmanuel Levinas's Totality and Infinity. This is a heavy one, folks. It's a work of philosophy born from the absolute devastation of war, and it forces us to rethink everything we thought we knew about our relationships with other people. So, Levinas kicks off his book with this bombshell of a question. Seriously, just think about it for a second. Imagine you've just lived through the horrors of World War II. In that world, doesn't all this talk about morality and doing the right thing just feel like a bad joke? A naive illusion? This isn't just some clever hook for Levinas. This question is the very heart of the problem he's desperate to solve. Okay, here's our game plan. We're going to start with that big question about morality and war. Then, we'll dig into his diagnosis of the problem, something he calls the philosophy of totality. After that, we hit the solution, his incredible idea of encountering the face. We'll see how he completely flips philosophy on its head. And finally, we'll talk about why any of this really, truly matters today. Right, so first things first. To get Levinas, you have to get where he's coming from. This isn't philosophy cooked up in a cozy university office. This is thinking that's been forged in a world that was literally shattered by violence. This quote says it all. For Levinas, war acts like a brutal truth serum. It just rips apart all the nice, polite stories we tell ourselves about the world. And what's left underneath? The harshest reality imaginable. A reality of pure power, where individuals are just numbers, just cogs in a violent machine. This is what he means by the pure experience of pure being, a world where might is the only thing that's right. And here's the twist. For Levinas, war isn't some freak accident. It's not just a political failure. He thinks it's the completely logical endpoint of a way of thinking that has been dominant in the West for centuries. So before he can offer a solution, he has to diagnose the sickness in our thinking itself. And that diagnosis has a name. He calls it totality. This is the big idea he's pushing back against, the philosophical tradition that he thinks leads us down a very dark path. So what is this philosophy of totality? Well, think of it as any big system that claims to have all the answers. It could be a political state, a grand theory of history, you name it. Its goal is always the same, to fit every single person and every single event into one big, neat story. And the problem with that, to make the story work, it has to absorb the individual, sanding away their uniqueness until they fit. You lose what makes you, you. Now, the engine that drives this whole machine is something called ontology, which is just a fancy word for the study of being or reality. And Levinas says that traditionally, ontology has one main move. It takes something that's different, something he calls the other, and it reduces it down to something familiar, something he calls the same. It's this deep, powerful urge to know, to categorize, and yeah, ultimately, to possess. And that sets up the two main characters in this whole drama. On one side, you have the same. That's me, my ego, my world, my thoughts. It's basically everything inside my bubble that I feel like I can understand and control. But then, on the other side, you have the other. And the other isn't just another me. The other is what is radically, fundamentally outside my bubble. The stranger. The person whose uniqueness I can never, ever fully capture or contain. And here's where he really drops the hammer. He says that if you make knowing everything the main goal of your philosophy, you've actually created a philosophy of power. You've created a world where freedom just means the ability to absorb everything and everyone into your own story. And for Levinas, that's not just some abstract philosophical mistake. That is the very essence of injustice. Okay, so if we're all stuck inside this philosophical prison of totality, how in the world do we break out? Levinas says the entire system gets shattered in one specific, intensely human moment, the encounter with the face of another person. Now, when Levinas says face, he's not just talking about your nose and your eyes and your mouth. The face is the event where the other person completely shatters any idea or category I try to put them in. I can have a concept of you in my head, but when I truly encounter you, face to face, you just overflow it. You're always more than my idea of you. So let's be clear. The face is not an object I can just analyze and own. It's an expression. It's a living event. It's the arrival of something I can never fully get my head around or contain. And this is the wild part. For Levinas, the face is the presence of infinity. It's the infinite otherness of another human being breaking into my finite world. And this part is absolutely crucial. The encounter with the face is never neutral. It makes a demand on me. It confronts my ego, my tendency to make everything about me, and it calls my freedom into question. Before I can even think, I'm suddenly in an ethical relationship. The face speaks, without words, and its first command is, "Thou shalt not kill." So this ethical moment, this encounter with the face, is the turning point for everything. And it leads Levinas to propose a complete, radical reversal of how Western philosophy works. He's building a whole new foundation. This is it. This is his central thesis, in just 3 words. What's he saying? He's saying that our ethical relationship to the other, which he calls metaphysics, is more basic, more fundamental than our quest to understand being, which is ontology. In other words, my responsibility to you comes before my knowledge about the world. And this chart just lays out the contrast perfectly. The old philosophy, ontology, it starts with the I, with me. Its goal is to know and possess. Its highest value is my freedom. And its model is vision, like seeing an object and grasping it. But the new philosophy Levinas is arguing for, metaphysics, starts with the other. Its goal isn't to possess, it's to welcome and respond. Its key relationship is ethics and justice. And its model isn't sight, but language, having a real conversation with someone you can never possess. I mean, that is just a huge shift in perspective. It means the most fundamental thing about my relationship with you isn't what I can figure out about you, but my responsibility for you, period. And this is the ultimate payoff. For Levinas, ethics isn't just another branch of philosophy like logic or aesthetics. No, it is the foundation. It is first philosophy. All our thinking, all our knowing, all our politics, it has to start from this primary, undeniable ethical responsibility to the other. Okay, so what does this all mean for us right here, right now? Well, Levinas is offering us a path, a way to think and live that leads us away from the violence of totality and towards a kind of peace that might actually last. For Levinas, peace isn't just the quiet after a war ends. That's usually just the victory of one system over another. No, true peace is found in what he calls the aptitude for speech. It's the ability to have a real conversation, one where you don't try to force the other person into your box, but you actually welcome them in all their infinite difference. So his philosophy really leaves us with a profound challenge. It's asking us to fundamentally change how we see the world. It's telling us to see other people not as objects or labels to be categorized, but as these living, breathing expressions to be welcomed. To recognize the infinity in every single person. To understand that real global peace doesn't start in grand treaties, but in the simple and yet incredibly difficult face-to-face moment where we accept our unbreakable responsibility for each other. And that's where we have to end. Levinas forces us to ask this radical question. What if we've got it all wrong? What if the whole point of our life together isn't to perfectly understand each other, to fit everyone into a neat little box? What if it's simply to answer the call that comes to us from the face of the other? It's a question that challenges not just how we think, but how we live.